Welcome to the FMCG Guys, the podcast that dives into the innovation, strategy, and trends shaping consumer goods and retail in Europe and beyond.
Welcome to the FMCG Guys podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Torres. If this is the first time you tune in, you'll want to know this is the show that gives visibility to the top voices in consumer goods and retail in Europe. And like today, beyond Europe as well. We're now over 200 episodes in. So thanks to everyone for your ongoing support. Do go into our website or your favorite podcast platform to entertain yourself and be educated with some of the industry's top voices. And we are part of a family of podcasts, which is headed by the CPG guys in the US. They're over 400 episodes in, so do go into their platform if you want to know what's happening in the consumer packaged goods world in the US. If you haven't yet, you can also follow us on LinkedIn, where you'll join a community, probably by the time this airs, of 18,000 members and counting. And now you can also find us on Instagram, where we've revamped our content, and it's a good way also to follow us and see what's going on latest episodes, events, and so on. Obviously, this journey wouldn't be the same without my co-hosts, and today I'm accompanied by a superstar, Christina Nicolaou, all the way from Athens, Greece. Hey, Christina, how are you?
Hi, Daniel. Always good, and hearing you calling me a superstar. Thanks for that. 200 episodes in, that's a milestone, right?
Yeah, I know. What episode were we? Because Christina, you joined us when we were already ongoing, but I don't think we'd probably even, we were not counting the episodes at the time.
We were not back then, but let us go back and check. That would be interesting.
I suspect we were not even at 50, so.
Okay, then it means I got a good percentage of participation.
Yeah. You got there. It's the Beatles, they had a drummer, and they changed drummers just before they became famous. So they had a drummer called Pete Best. And just before they got famous, they fired him and they hired Ringo Starr. So
I'm your Ringo Starr.
Exactly. But you're not a drummer. You're more like the lead singer. We're all lead singers here.
Fun fact, I actually play the drums. I studied the drums for quite a while when I was younger, yeah.
Well, there you go. I couldn't have chosen a better analogy. But I think what makes the podcast special is the great guests that we bring and we've brought over the last 3-4 years already. So today, I think we have one of the top ones, and very keen to speak with him about growth opportunities in FMCG as well as self-management. You'll see he's a very different type of executive. And it's no other than Aseem Puri, who's the CEO of Unilever International Division. Hi, Aseem. How are you?
Hi, Daniel. Hi, Christine. I'm very well. How are you doing?
Very good, very good. As you see, you're becoming part of the select member or select club of FMCG guests. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Great to be here. And I've heard a lot about your podcast.
Excellent. So Aseem, before we get into the big topics we want to talk about, it would be interesting just to set the scene if you could tell us briefly a bit about your business and career background.
Sure. So look, firstly, great to be here again, and I lead Unilever International. That's Unilever's white space division. So we basically take care of new markets, new categories, rolling out brands into white spaces, take care of many small, challenging geographies globally. Headquartered in Singapore, that's where I'm based. And before that, I've had a career in marketing and sales in Unilever. My pet passions are to write. So I just finished writing my book on productivity as well this year. And end up traveling a lot, given the nature of our business, which is truly global, because we operate in more than 200 markets. So therefore, try to minimize the amount of time I'm in the plane and spend a little bit more time at home, not enough. But that's always the balance that one is trying to achieve.
And I went through your LinkedIn profile, Aseem, and indeed you have a vast array of different roles that you have done in various commercial and marketing parts of the company. Could you share with us and our listeners a little bit about some moments in your career that you would consider the most important?
Cool. I think every stint has some high points and some good experiences. The current one is amazing because if you do so many brands in so many countries, then there's always something new happening in the world, right? So therefore, we just got some market share information in Korea, a market that we manage on a new brand we launched. We are number 3 in the category, doing really well. But I think one high point for me was in COVID, because when COVID happened, a lot of governments reached out to us because we have strong relationships in the community to help with COVID related products. And we really quickly rallied to form a task force in Unilever International. And we managed to serve almost 100 markets with sanitizers, masks, and various other products around the world, leveraging our capability, our agility, our speed, including markets like Singapore, the US, parts of Europe, Middle East, Africa. So we did a lot for the community at that time, and I think that was very satisfying. I think secondly, we've built a very strong social first digital marketing model now, where we can launch new brands into new markets with limited marketing investment, typically $50,000, $100,000, $200,000, and we can start to build strong market share positions. So I think we've cracked the model in which if you want to build a new brand in a market, which is typically very, very tough and has very low rate of success for most companies, for us, it's got quite a high rate of success. So we have a strong social first model. And then I think it's always great, in FMCG when most things that you do, most products that you launch, most campaigns that you do, after 5-6 years, if you look back, most of them, you will not find them on shelf. Something new has come. So I think one thing very satisfying for me is that when I travel the market and if I see something that I worked on from my brand manager, they're still doing really well. That's really great to see because then you know that you've developed something that delights consumers and does really well. So I think, and my favorite part of the job, of course, is talking to consumers. I don't do enough of it in my current role because I'm a bit busy with commercial operations and sales and various other things. But as my previous role as marketing head and other marketing roles, connecting with consumers to get insights and understanding their needs is the best part of a marketer's job.
Yeah. And it's interesting what you said about like the satisfaction of seeing a product that you've developed on the shelf after a few years, because I think the percentage of like product innovations that disappear after 1 year is super high. I forget the number now, but
I think it's like 50-60% of innovations disappear in 12 to 18 months. So one of the mixes that I worked on was building liquid detergents in Asia, which was a small nascent category, not very big. Unilever wanted to make it big. And we had tried 3-4 times and failed. And I think the mix that we developed is still doing really well. We are market leader in most markets that we operate in. And that shows the high quality of consumer work that happened in that time. So whenever you do really deep consumer work, really understand the needs, live with consumers, see them using the product, see them shopping, and then work to unlock the right solutions, you see long-term success.
Yeah, it's about really solving a problem for your consumer and making their lives better, I guess. So it's not just about having the shiny new thing. That's kind of the trend. And these things are the ones that keep on coming and then going. But if you really find the solution and you provide value to your consumers, that's what kind of like sticks.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's important to understand that in a world of social first marketing, this trend of things disappearing is even faster. Right? So everything is a fad. It's a trend. It comes, it goes. Influencers recommend something which after 3 months doesn't exist. So it's really important as brands to anchor yourself in consumer understanding, develop some hero products that really solve a problem or delight consumers in a certain category, and then be consistent around it because consumers today have such short attention spans. Because everybody's addicted to browsing on social media and following the latest influencer recommendation. And every single day, there will be something new to chew on, something new to browse on. So creating things that last, making impact for millions, I think that is not easy, but that is the most satisfying as a marketer when you do it.
And one thing that caught my attention, Aseem, when I looked at your profile is that you've spent your whole career at Unilever, 21 years. Christina and I have been working for a bit more than around 10 years, a bit more, and we've both changed companies a couple of times. So curious to know what's made you stay at Unilever all these years.
I think the biggest thing is while it's a big company, but it offers you a platform for a career. Means you can do sales, you can do marketing, you can do cross-functional roles, you can work in different geographies, you can work on different categories and different brands. So I worked on home care, personal care, beauty in Thailand, in India, in Singapore, in China. Today, for example, just I'm reflecting on, just today's Friday. So Fridays we have a thing called Focus Friday, where we don't do internal meetings. We focus on deep work. We focus on connecting with our customers. We focus on connecting with our consumers. So in the morning, I had a session with our fragrance and flavor house to really identify new hot trends in beauty and skincare. And one of the trends they talked about was fragrances inspired by cocktails and desserts, right? So we were smelling fragrances that smelled like tiramisu and creme brulee and chocolate mint and ice cream, which is really fantastic experience. We picked something from them. And then a couple of hours later, I had an engagement with a customer who is our partner to supply to governments and the military. And in the evening, I'm going to have a call with somebody who's looking after opening business for us in Central America and the Caribbean. So you can see in a day, I had like 3 different amazing experiences, which are totally unrelated. And therefore, there's constant amount of novelty in this job, right? You're always doing something new. So in fact, I don't think changing jobs for me would have given me more experience than what I have today. In fact, I have today got experience in pretty much every part of the world, different categories. So I think that's the main reason. People are great in Unilever. It's a company that takes care of you. And being marketing focused, being consumer obsessed, makes us a great company to learn the ropes about consumer marketing. So, and I am a very impatient person. I like to do new things, change things all the time. So for me, this job is perfect because every single day I have the opportunity to solve a different problem or look at a new market or explore a new category. We have behind me, there's a wall of products here of different types. And every day you can pick one up and explore it, use it, taste it, smell it, and see what you want to do with it, right? So yeah, it's a world of opportunity, I think, which is what I love every single day. And we serve white space, and white space is permanent. There will always be some space of the world that's uncovered. Therefore, there's always growth opportunity.
And that's what you said you do kind of like within your current scope, right? Exploring the white spaces for Unilever. Could you tell us a little bit more? What is the scope of your role? What are the areas that you're looking after and looking at?
Yeah, so we are a specialist white space organization. So we take care of all the small geographies globally. So there are 200 plus countries, of which 60, 70, 80 are main markets for Unilever and for most other companies. But that still leaves more than 100 small countries that are underserviced or unserviced. This includes all the great places that you want to go to: Maldives, Mauritius, Seychelles, and all the places that you would not want to go to, maybe like places like Libya, conflict zones, parts of Africa which are difficult to reach, or landlocked countries like Mongolia. So we service all of these. Second, we incubate and seed new brands and new categories. So we're building the global lip care category for Unilever. We're building global hair styling category. We're building dressings as a category in Asia. So wherever businesses are relatively small, they're at an early stage, we would seed and incubate and develop them, partner with retailers to do exclusive launches. And our hallmark is we are global. We operate as one team. Therefore, at any given point, if somebody in Mexico has a need for a product for a certain category, they would send a message on the groups or on Teams chats, etc. Hey guys, I have this retailer, I have this need. Do you have a solution? And somebody in China will message after 1 hour saying, hey, how about this? Because we connect everybody dynamically. So we work with great amount of agility. And typically, we try to run a lean, efficient organization where decisions can be made in minutes, hours, or in a day or two, maybe. Less bureaucracy, no PowerPoint presentations, quick, fast agility. So that kind of organization is able to tackle and pivot very fast. So for example, last night I got a message from my Australia business manager saying, we launched something into Costco under the brand Surf, and that has broken all records of sales. So I took that idea and shared with everybody else today. And then I already got 2 messages from somebody in Europe saying, hey, I would like to experiment with this idea immediately. I connected those 2 people. We're going to have a call in the evening, and next week things will start moving. So I think moving with speed, serving underserved markets, developing new categories and channels, and unlocking new growth opportunities. So one of our mottos is default answer is yes, right? And instead of people saying no, you should be saying yes to opportunity. And if you're going to say no, you better explain why it's no, rather than the person proposing having to justify themselves. So, we give opportunities, we take risks, and we do almost one launch a day. Almost every day, something is launching somewhere in the world. So therefore, you have a constant amount of learning on what's working, what's working better, what's working worse. And we constantly document that knowledge so that we can get better and better and better over a period of time.
So sounds very much like you're harnessing the power of the network. Let's say it sounds like an
Yes,
international
yes,
innovation
yes.
network kind of thing.
In a way, yes. And we have 1,000 plus partners externally, distributors, retailers who we work with. They amplify and exponentially expand our capability because, okay, Ethiopia, I'll work with 3 people, 3 partners. They know the market very well. They will bring to us growth opportunities. And it's surprising that today with social media, trends travel. So, for example, in Africa, I was traveling in Nigeria, in Ghana, in Ethiopia, in Morocco, and I asked consumers, we'll play a word game. I will name the country and you tell me what comes to your mind. So I said USA, freedom, Dubai, wealth, UK, royalty. I said India. And I expected them to say Bollywood or cricket or something. They said, no, it's hair. I said, what do you mean? Sir, we love Indian hair. I said, what do you mean by that? We watch all the Indian movies and all the ladies have wonderful, long, flowing hair. I want hair like that. And therefore, one of the things they aspired for was an Indian hair product, which was not really available in the market. So you can see how Korean beauty or Indian hair or foods from France start to become regional and global trends. And then we leverage that to really bring our brands to the market globally.
That's interesting. I think that you all can also, like, if you have one product that's successful in one region, then you can plug it into North America, for example, no? And things like that. That's what I understood.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's really interesting. So you're talking all about growth, but we're in a moment now in FMCG where growth is kind of lacking for most companies. What's your perspective on like areas for growth in FMCG, how companies can reach growth? Since you come from a bit of a different perspective as well, and you may see things that people that are like more in like their key accounts roles in developed markets don't see.
Sure. So I think, firstly, I believe that there is a lot of growth opportunity in the world. There are many parts of the world, the markets that are growing, that are doing well, markets like India. There's a lot of investment in happening in markets like Saudi Arabia. The US economy continues to do well. So that's one. Second, there is a lot of fragmentation of channels. Consumers start to buy on TikTok Shop. They start to buy on direct to consumer. They start to buy on home shopping. Third, there's a fragmentation of brands because today private label, small niche D2C brands, startup brands start to enter FMCG in a big way. Therefore, many unique propositions and many niche propositions start to become available. So in a fragmented world, I think there is growth opportunity for those who are agile, those who are willing to experiment, those who are not afraid of failure. Because in the old world, everything was mass media, mass production, mass distribution, and mass market share. You can expect to have 40% share with one brand. Today, it's a world of fragmentation. So if you want to win in a world of fragmentation, you need to have a portfolio. In that portfolio, there will be certain things that will work in certain channels. You will have some premium portfolio, some mass portfolio. You will then need to have a faster pace of innovation. So you'll need to produce innovations at smaller scale and experiment and learn and test with socially first consumers to see if it works and then scale it. So I think you need a different business model and a different mindset if you want to win today. And a lot of the tools, ways of working, media of yesteryear don't work anymore. Therefore, I think there is growth, but there is growth for players who are willing to live with higher degree of complexity, have a wider portfolio, do more social first marketing, learn to seed and incubate before scaling, and really win with the channels of the future, which are DCOM, which are e-com, direct to consumer, social first, etc. So we see a lot of growth opportunity, but it is dependent on our ability to do these 3-4 things that I outlined. And I think we have some good case studies of doing that.
I guess what you're saying is there is a lot of growth opportunity, but it requires kind of a different mindset versus what we used to have in the past.
Mindset, skill set, capability. For example, if you want to do social first, I give you example. We just launched a new innovation. It's called under Vaseline Lip. It's our first collaboration with Netflix. It's called Vaseline Lip. Emily in Paris. Emily in Paris is the new show on Netflix.
Rings a
very
bell.
popular. So we collaborated with that show to produce a co-branded range. We launched it first on social first. Normal model is go wide on distribution. Our model is no, go narrow on distribution. Normal model is make infinite amount of stock available. Our model is no, be limited, be focused, make only limited amount of stock available, test and learn, get the early reviews, make sure the product is working, then start investing media, then slowly scale it. So this is a very different model. Many channels we are present and we are investing to build awareness and talkability and buzz and desire, not necessarily drive revenue growth. Because when revenue driving channel and awareness building channel might be totally different. They may have nothing to do with each other. Because why? In one day or 1 week or 1 month, we, all of us, including yourselves, I'm assuming, we are shopping in the supermarket. We are buying groceries there. We are browsing on TikTok. We are shopping on e-commerce for some electronic gadget. We are looking at a D2C site. We are reading recommendations from our friends, etc., etc., etc. We have complex shopping journeys. Nobody is today shopping in one channel. Therefore, in such an environment, the way to influence behavior is also in the same model. You select channels which you go to for finding new things. You seed and incubate there. You get early adopters to recommend you. Then you go to the channels where you start to build distribution like e-commerce. And finally, you go offline. So I think we're building a model around this. We're seeing some good traction, but long way to go.
And Aseem, you have accumulated a vast amount of knowledge from your corporate career, let's say. On the side, you have also developed another career for yourself, right? So we see you as a motivational speaker, talking about the written a book. Tell us a little bit what drove that part of Aseem.
Sure. So look, my personal purpose is to serve and inspire everyone. And therefore, I do a lot of public speaking, a lot of motivational speaking, writing, blogging on LinkedIn. Got a lot of positive feedback on that. Then wrote an ebook that did well. Then somebody requested me, okay, can you put all your thoughts together into a physical book? So, okay, did that. Then you start getting invitations to speak, like this podcast, for example. So the book is called 10x Productive, and it's all about secrets to become extremely productive in your personal and professional life, how to get everything done, how to eliminate bureaucracy, how to save time, manage your emails and meetings, make sure your core career and life priorities are front and center for you. So all of these from personal experience, from seeing others who are doing it well, I've put together about 100 plus ideas in the book and just launched it a few months ago. It's on Amazon in India, in Singapore, and it's on my D2C site, aseempuri.com. And yeah, it's doing well. I've been giving talks around it. So just the start. I have many more ideas to produce many more books, talks, courses, etc., over a period of time, but that will come.
And Aseem will obviously leave the link to the book on the show notes. I know that the intention is that people actually read it, but what led you to write the book? And if you can tell us a bit about what the book's about.
Yeah. Like I said, I think the big idea is very simple. I ask people, and I will ask you, Daniel and Christine, how many weeks do you think you have left to live?
Well, I haven't done the math, but it sounds scary if I do.
Probably
Take an
like
estimate.
Probably like
guess.
60 years, I guess.
No, how many weeks?
Weeks.
So it's 52 weeks times how many years you said?
So 3,000
60.
weeks.
I don't know how many years.
Like 3,000 weeks.
3,000 weeks.
Right? So for somebody it's 1,500, somebody's 2,000, somebody's 3,000. But it's not a lot of time. You have 1,500, 2,000, 2,500 Sundays, Mondays, Tuesdays. Now let me ask you another question. How much time in our life do you think we spend A, on social media, B, on streaming, including Netflix, TV, YouTube, and C, in meetings at work? What do you think?
Meetings at work, that's 5 hours per day, like 25 hours per week, I would say, for sure. So
And on
how
your
many
phone?
weeks?
And on your phone,
On
that's
my
at least 3
phone.
hours a day as well,
I guess so.
plus the
More or
weekend.
less.
So in your life, on average, for most of us, we're going to spend 5 years on social media, 8 years on streaming, watching YouTube and Netflix and shit, and about 5 years in meetings. Okay. Now, contrast this with how much time do you think you spend in your life getting hugged and kissed?
Not enough.
20 days.
For sure, no, no.
20
Wow.
days. 5 years in meetings, 20 days getting hugged and kissed. So time is limited. Most of it is going away into social media, streaming, emails and meetings and shit. So therefore, I put together some principles to say how we can really have a clear set of life targets, life goals, life OKRs. Second, really eliminate distractions like meetings, like emails, and reduce them significantly through a good set of practices. And really invest that time on family, on health, on work projects that really matter. These are the really important things. So therefore, I put together a lot of practices around that. So for example, at work in Unilever International, we have something called Focus Friday. We do not do internal meetings on Friday. We do it for external things like meeting customers, meeting suppliers, meeting consumers, going to the market, doing deep work, etc. Instead of making hundreds of slides in a presentation, we have a 5-slide rule. No matter what the topic is, no matter how important it is, maximum 5 slides are allowed, not more than that. If you have a conflict with somebody, stop doing email warfare. Pick up the phone and talk to the person. One phone call saves 10 emails. So many such productivity tips, which are simple, easy to implement, are in the book. And that's basically one of my motivations, that people should be spending time on what matters, not wasting their energy and time, because time is limited. Are we successful in doing it fully? No, not yet. I think we made progress, but there's a lot more to do.
Okay, and tell us a little bit, like, for me, as Christine now, give me a tip, like, how can I be more productive if I'm spending so much time on my phone, or like how many, 8 years of my life on my phone?
And also you have the temptation on you all the time.
Yes,
So
you
it's
have it on
easy.
you.
I think, look, we are, for 6 million years, we lived in Africa as human beings, surrounded by tigers, lions, and elephants. Anytime you're out hunting, and if something moves, it's probably an animal coming to get you. Therefore, we have to look immediately. What does it mean? We are designed to be distracted. So if there is a ping on your phone, if there is an email in your inbox, if there is a notification, you are going to look at it. You can't stop yourself. No amount of self-control you can stop yourself. So you have to digitally de-addict yourself. How can you do that? Turn off notifications, turn off the sound. When you're working, keep your phone in your bag 3 feet away from you, or in another room if you want. If you want to do deep work, turn off your Wi-Fi for 1 hour. Not for longer than that, for 1 hour or 2 hours or 3 hours or whatever. What I call go flight mode. You start practicing any of these steps, you automatically start to release a lot of time. Then one day will come when you will feel, Christine and Daniel, oh, I have too much time. I don't know what to do with it. Right? Because there is so much time that's going into devices and phones and emails, etc. And one very powerful tool is deleting apps. I have deleted all social media apps on my phone. And guess what? I don't miss them. I don't miss them, and I don't feel like, oh, I have to go back to them. I think if you can start small, take 1 or 2 steps to remove some digital distractions like notifications, like the apps, etc., you free up a ton of time to do what really matters. So yeah, these and others. And of course, if you want to read more, I can get you a few copies so you can really digest some more of the ideas. I'd also do a lot of talks around it. So therefore, happy to do that as well. Virtually, it's about 40 minutes talk, so that the best ideas. But yeah, these are some of the suggestions I would give.
Yeah, we'll add the details to your book. Feel free to send it. I think I will definitely read it, because that's something that I personally want to work on in the next few months, on how to like do more meaningful activities with my time. And obviously we'll also link it to your LinkedIn profile. So if anyone wants to inquire on you as a speaker or wants to see your profile,
Sure.
Yeah. And Aseem, I was curious to ask you, so as a recruiter, I look at a lot of LinkedIn profiles, and your LinkedIn profile caught my attention. First of all, because you've had 2 careers in parallel. Second pick is you've reached a certain seniority, but thirdly, you don't come across as the typical executive. On your LinkedIn picture, you have earrings, for example. So you obviously have a personality of your own, which I really like. So my question is like, how have you combined being yourself and staying true to yourself to succeeding in corporate? Because sometimes it seems like there's a lot of trade-offs on the personality side.
I think people overestimate these things and they think too much about it. I think in most companies, at least I can talk for Unilever, I don't think people care that much with how you dress, what you look like. I'm famous for wearing colorful trousers, red, yellow, green, pink, etc. Because I love those colors. In fact, when I don't wear them, people ask, "Are you okay? Are you unwell? Something wrong with you?" So I think one is people overthink. Second, of course, ultimately, performance matters. You have to deliver. You have to drive results. You have to drive growth, profit, etc. The targets that you've been set. When you're doing that, people respect you. And therefore, if you have some quirks, if you have some unique habits, hobbies, etc., you should play it up because it gives you energy to be more successful. Ultimately, any company, any boss, any team is looking for people who want to contribute more, who have drive, who have energy. So everybody's motivated by different things. So I have one person in my team who says, look, I'm not going to ask you for promotion or salary increase, but one thing is I love to travel. So I want to go to different markets. I want to experience different things. So my message to them is go for it. That's what motivates you. That's what gives you energy. And this person is one of our top sales performers. We have other people who say, I want to learn a new skill. Can you help me sponsor a small course? I say, okay, go for it. In my case, I would like to present, speak, inspire teams. So I told my boss I'd like to do that. So fine, do it on your own time. I don't mind. So I think key is each person's motivation comes from something that gives them energy. Our job as leaders is to help them find what that is and give them space for that. So being yourself is really important. Expressing your views is really important. There is a vacancy in my team right now, and somebody wanted to apply for that vacancy. And this person sits on my floor. I've seen they're not in my team; they're in another team. I've seen this person for like maybe 2 years, right? But we never had an interaction. So they came to me and said, I want to talk to you. I said, yes, how can I help you? I'm interested in this role. I said, great. But for 2 years, you've been around me. I talked to everybody, but you never came and spoke to me about anything. I don't know anything about you. Said, yeah, but I don't want to sell myself. I said, look, you're not selling yourself. You're communicating. So I think people really underestimate the importance of communicating with their boss, with their colleagues, what they want, what they stand for, what they're looking for. It's very funny. Sometimes there will be a conversation. Somebody will say, I need a pay increase. My response to that is, how much? And 90% of people have no clue. They have not thought about it. They have not thought about what amount are they looking for and why it makes sense. So I think it's really important to be clear what you stand for, have a purpose, communicate it with others, and be demanding. Ask for what you want. Yes, there may be some companies and some leaders who may not give it to you, but at least if you're clear, whether in that company or in your own business or wherever, you will get what you want. So you need to be clear on what's important for you and loudly proclaim it to the whole world. When you broadcast your intentions, the universe responds.
And how does that look from the other side for you, like as a people's leader? Of course, your leadership style must have evolved throughout the years. So how do you see your leadership style now and how has it changed?
So of course, I think beginning of my career is all about results, drive, performance, numbers. Now it's a lot about people, given my position, about influencing others, about motivating, about coaching, about inspiring, about listening. So I think it's always a balance of what I call performance through people. That if you really want to perform and drive the organization and the business and the brands, it has to be done through the team. And how you do it through the team is by listening to them, by appreciating them, by recognizing their good contribution. One of the big beliefs that I have is the single biggest deficiency in all companies, all organizations, all families, and all relationships is one thing. It's called vitamin A. Vitamin A is seriously missing. A stands for appreciation. So I think we don't get enough appreciation. We don't give enough appreciation in both our personal and professional lives. And therefore, we have a movement called the Vitamin A movement, where we want to give vitamin A to each other. We want to recognize each other. We want to appreciate each other. And it's so important because you want to get the best out of somebody. The only way to do that is to recognize the good that they have. It's not through criticism. It's not through negative feedback. If you want to have a good marriage, and it's funny, let me ask you, what is the ratio of appreciation to criticism in a marriage? Or what should be the right ratio?
What should be the right?
What is the current or what should be the right?
What it should be for a healthy marriage or a relationship.
20 to 1.
Okay, great. Fantastic. I'm very happy if you have that. But the scientific number is 7 to 1. So for every one time that you give anybody negative feedback, criticism at work or personally, you need to appreciate them 7 times for them to feel equal. So if you said to, if somebody said to their partner at home, oh, you left the wet towel on the bed. Okay, you better give them 7 positive appreciations, including flowers, chocolates, candies for them to feel okay. And at work as well, if you wrote one nasty email to somebody, you need to appreciate them at least 7 times. And how many of us do that? Very few. Therefore, most people are overtly criticized a lot more than appreciated. But if you can change this balance, if you can become an appreciative culture, you will see the transformation.
And it does sound like a lot of work, right? So you better think about it very hard before passing on any kind of criticism.
Yeah, so my message to people is, ideally, give vitamin A. If you feel you don't want to give vitamin A, which you should not, but okay, if you don't want to, basically keep your mouth shut, don't say anything. Don't criticize. Because if you criticize and don't give appreciation, that's the worst combination. So I think as leaders, the one simple message, be positive, give appreciation, find recognition, create small awards, create small moments to recognize things. Don't wait for the end of the year. Do it every day. Think about doing it at home, doing it with your family. Do not assume that there is anybody in the world. And I have not met in the 20 years that I've worked any one human being. And I asked this question, and I'll ask both of you. Do you feel too appreciated? Do you get too many compliments? I have never met one person who says, yeah, I think I'm too appreciated. Doesn't happen, right? So all of us are looking for more. And I think it's if we learn to do that, we create a much better work environment. We get the best out of each other and we're generally happier, right?
Sounds feasible. No, and obviously, I think that what you're saying, obviously, it's something that probably comes natural to your personality, but I'm sure there's a lot that you've learned as you've led and have different experiences. This one famous question we ask all our guests on the podcast, Aseem, which is, with everything that you've learned in your career, if you had to go back to yourself when you were starting to work, what would be that one piece of advice you would give yourself?
I would say go for it faster, do even more, be yourself, express your views even more, don't be shy, reach out to people, connect more. I think we have, as we start a career, a lot of doubts, fears, concerns, worries. We are more careful in experimenting, in being ourselves, like you said. Go for it. Go all the way. Do everything that you can possibly do, right? Fail. Don't worry about it. Everything will work out okay. So I think that would be the thing I will say. I have done my fair bit. I'm doing, but do even more.
This was Aseem Puri, CEO of Unilever International. Christina, what are your takeaways? I think we'll have to divide them in two, no?
Kind of, I guess. So we had a very interesting conversation on the business side of things, as well as on not just the leadership, but rather coaching space, I would argue.
Yeah, totally. So in the business side, like a lot to learn there, I think, in terms of FMCG growth, which is something much needed, I think.
Yeah, I loved how he talked about doing social first, social commerce less marketing, business overall. But I think one of the the areas that we're not also expecting kind of in the conversation and came up strongly was how a lot of new products come in the FMCG industry and then they kind of disappeared. I think he said something like 50-60%, right?
Yeah.
So indeed, there's a lot of innovation and people get recommendations by influencers, or you also see like influencers dropping their own new hot stuff in the market, and then it doesn't stick around.
Yeah.
I felt like this is something that's very strong, like with businesses that really want to do right with the way they are scaling and they are innovating, which is you need to take the consumer needs as your starting and ending point. This is where you need to be if you want to create something that creates kind of like long-term value.
Yeah, and he made that divide also of like in the old world was like mass production, mass launches, and now the way he sees it is like smaller scale innovation, test with consumers. Like it's a whole different way of like introducing brands into that society, if you like.
Yeah, because this is the other part that he talked about a bit, right? Which is on the question of growth. How do you see growth coming? Finally, I was in a meeting this week and I heard something that I kind of like stuck with me, that the party of the after COVID period is now a hangover.
Yeah, that's a good way to see it.
Right, yeah, because there was a lot of lazy growth, if you want, and a lot of price-oriented growth. Well, right now you really need to drive your volume, and it's a tough job to do because it's a different set of skills that you need to have, a different mindset. As Aseem also mentioned, you have a lot of emerging markets that are not being serviced the way the others are. There's a lot of fragmentation, both in channels as well as in brands. And that's where you need to change the way that you go about your route to consumer, essentially, and what your targets are, because what success means is not going to be the same thing as it used to be in the past. And his example of availability, for example, is like really spot on. I think every FMCG company would go about build distribution, build awareness, and then the rest will come.
Yeah.
Have their own price points, of course, and so on. But now he's like, no, we're being selective. We're going in a different way because it's a fragmented world and you need to play a different game to win.
Totally. And it's going to be interesting to see what organizations can evolve to that and which can't, no? Because it's like decades and decades of working in the same way, and now changing can't be easy.
But it's also about being comfortable to take decisions in a different way. And I guess like this is what Aseem is doing with kind of the structure they have now and the part that he is leading. As he mentioned a lot about the network and how they're setting ideas from one side of the world to the other, and then really needing to evolve in order to have that speed to market and being comfortable with not having all the data and all the consent from everybody before making a decision.
Totally. And what about like the more coaching part? He's just written this book, 10x Productive, which obviously I think we're both very curious to look at now. When he talked about like the hours we spend on different things, I mean, Jesus.
And this is kind of like data that are widely available to all of us. We don't take the time to look at it, but also when we do, it actually feels very scary and surprising. But that's kind of like how we're spending our days, I guess, and our hours and minutes even. So it does feel quite scary when you put it all together. And on the other hand, I love how he just said, okay, we cannot be punishing ourselves because we're being distracted. We're designed that way. We just need to make the decision that we're going to cut these distractions off and like turn off the notifications on your phones, as he mentioned, or like delete some apps.
Yeah, he called it like digitally, like managing it digitally, something like that. I forget exactly how.
Yeah, I'll read the book to
Yeah,
make sure.
Exactly. By the way, it's in the show notes if anyone wants to learn more about it. I think I really liked that, and I was anticipating it. I really liked what he talked about, like the looks and personality and so on. He being like somebody that has like a very different and distinct way of like dressing and being, and that's not deterred him from being successful. I think that was very refreshing as well.
It is very refreshing. I think that he's right when it comes to people overthink. I am cautious that we might get overthinkers to overthink the fact that they're overthinking. If you start telling someone like, just don't do this, like don't think of an elephant, then they think of the elephant, of course. So it's very hard to find that balance, but it is refreshing when you see someone who projects that kind of confidence and feel like they've accomplished that.
Yeah, it's always good to have like role models in that way. And that doesn't mean that everybody has to dress like him or be the same way, but it just says, comes to show that you can be yourself and be yourself, I think, as long as like you know how to adapt to certain other things. I love, by the way, the vitamin A movement, appreciation. We'll have to start giving more positive feedback to who we work with and our loved ones, no?
Definitely. And I guess the ratio is 1-7. So it feels like quite a lot. Though, okay, also eliminating the criticism can be a way to help.
Yeah.
But no one will feel overappreciated, as Aseem said. So, well, I do appreciate you, Daniel, for all the work we're doing together, and I do appreciate all our listeners as well.
Yeah, likewise. I have to say, Christina, like and I know that this is like a side hustle in some way, but I do think that we do pretty well in like, we are pretty self-critical, but I don't think we criticize each other much. And we're pretty appreciative. So I think at least in like this podcast dynamic, we're doing well.
Absolutely. And I feel like it's because together with a friend as well, we kind of like lift each other up.
Yeah.
And that's what's needed at the end of the day. Hopefully with our listeners and our guests as well.
Yeah, exactly. So we appreciate everyone that listens to us and supports us. We'll have very cool things happening in the next year. So do stay tuned. Probably a couple of events early in the year. So stay tuned. Thanks for listening in. And we'll see you in the next episode of the FMCG Guys.